Jonas, John Jockey boy, they rob you man. Got there in Savannah. You should have been placed between Sparrow and Kitchen Down. That they talk that brilliant all over for the Spain. Oh boy, look, you start to make. Don't you go back there again. If you want to win the drum, you got to sing up and pass on. You can't have some pepper jump. So let me shake the rum. So me, I hope you see how power out with what raspberry. So to do best, you must dress like a test and jump with test. So me, come on that scene, because you cannot find that fancy. To stop the light, to dress like Ryan, you are the I guess now you make final. I guess you can't win the crown. Why? Because you're only singing some moving so stupid song. We think you're intelligent, enough to know what to say. Look at bacchanal and smart, that caused you can't get to it. If you want to win the crown, sing about wine, women, and song. Sing about your neighbor's wife. Sing about your own sex life. Shorty, I hope you see why so unpolitics don't agree. And be aware that up there is that there they want to get. Shorty, this easy will never come you in this century. So don't lie on your walk line to ride goodbye, 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 goodbye. Until I get on talking, used to try to sell things. He sang your random song, but you never end up winning. People don't like serious songs with big philosophy. Try and sing some more like it, simple and very true. If you want to be the girl, certain words must be in your song. Like better carnival, woman from bacchanal. Shortly, to sing sweetly, you got to take a little money. You can't hope to be true, unless you smoke or take a load. Shortly, this easy, just give them judges plenty whiskey, and when they get high, we don't like your crying, so I do goodbye, goodbye. your crowd to put on others also. Forget your opponents to drink. Drink mix up with good as wine. Or send them judges that right. Only so the crown will die. If you want to sing and must be playing your song, it must be on recording phone. Or else they will call you down. Shortly, you got to be right in the 7 VIP. You could become, you could be talking come, unless you be done. All my friends, you have me wrong. My head is ready not to withdraw. But until I die, you hear my cry. Thank you very much. It's a pleasure to be here and to be singing for Whistle. We go back just in the days of.
Oh, well, good evening and welcome to this evening's edition of Politics 101. The mighty chalked us there, Juba, Dubai, Kaiso, Real Kaiso, Calypso, the mighty chalked us. Singing there, but what you need to do to win the crown, you got to sing fast. You got to sing about your own sex life. Juba Dubai. And that went way back. Chocdos today has 8 crowns, the most by any Calypsonian. And at the beginning, he was saying, making the judges don't want political songs. They don't want political kaiso. Good evening and welcome to Politics 101 on Friday evening. It's so good to be Guyanese, good to be Caribbean, good to be black and beautiful. And you all heard, and I should have looked for that clip to play it. Those of you who are MSNBC-ites, you all are Joy Reid, whose mother was from Guyana. And she last night after Kamala Harris's riveting address to the DNC, Joy Reid was on, and she had been all week talking about our Guyanese heritage, and last night she went at it, in Guyana, and she talked about our mother from Guyana, or country Guyana, and she was talking about the Indian side of Kamala Harris, and she was saying she can identify with all of Kamala Harris because the African side, or Caribbean side, or Caribbean mother from Guyana, and the Indian side of Kamala, because she says, the Indians are in Guyana too. She was talking about the roti and curry and so on. So it's good to see someone with a large microphone, celebrating our heritage. She talks a lot about our African heritage and increasingly our Guyanese heritage. A little bit more, because Kamala doesn't talk a lot about our Jamaican heritage. I think she's talking a little bit more about it. But Joy Reid. I'm an MSNBC person, so I get to it. So it was good to hear Joy Reid talking about our Guyana. Understand? She goes out and Labor Day in New York and wear a Guyana flag and so on out there. It's good. It's good when our people have large microphone to celebrate us. You know, we try to make an example of that. As you notice here, I talk a lot here. My microphone is not as large as not even 1% of Joy Reid's microphone, but it's the example to talk about ordinary people, people from your own communities, your own villages, your own wards in the town, people you went to school with, people who meet you in the streets. And, you know, part of it is to celebrate them, because the microphones that we have, they're large microphones because of those people. And so it was so nice to hear Joy Reid, who's one of my favorite commentators because she pulls no punches. She's a black woman. She's a black woman and she says that all the time. And she represents her blackness. And we in Guyana have to get used to that. We're getting there, you know. We have to get used to hearing people saying, I am African. And not to look around and not to fear people calling you a racist. And that you can't say so because, you know, no. Joy Reid has her own show, Prime Time, and she talks about our Africanness or West Indianness or Guyaneseness because she's there to represent us. You see, this is part of what we've got to understand. We are representatives of the people who made us possible. We are representatives of the people who made us possible. So many people could be in the position that Aubrey Norton is, or Nigel Hughes, or myself. So many people who are as talented and more talented than us and could have had the large microphone that we have. And that we have it is not because of some special talent that we have, but it's because people invested in us. People invested in us. Somebody saw something and gave us a break. You know, I was reminding my daughter, my last daughter, and I was reminding her that from the time I was about 6, 7, 8 years old, somebody was always telling me you could do something. And I remember when I was about, I think, 8 or 9, Miss Elaine Green, from Buxton, she was a live wire in the village. She was the PNC person, community person, village councillor, and so forth. And my aunt was a member of the Women's Auxiliary, which was the women's arms of the PNC. And I used to tug along with her to meeting at Miss Green's place and so on. And there I was, a 7, 8-year-old, listening to these ladies talking about politics. I didn't understand much, but the little that I understood, I knew they were into something very, very serious. And I suppose that's where my active interest in politics began. Listening to those ladies, I think I used to meet every Wednesday or Thursday night, if I can, years and years ago. But there I was, and, you know, they would be talking about politics and be talking about women in politics. And I was the small boy following your auntie. And when I was about 8 or so, they put on a play. I think Miss Green had written the play, a skit, you know. And she chose me as one of the persons to act in the skit. And the role was to act as a doctor. I was 7, 8 years old or thereabout. And I remember taking part in that skit and liking what I was doing and thing. And Miss Green said, you know, you are going to be a doctor one day. You know, you're playing the role of a doctor now, but you will be a doctor one day. And I tell that story because from very early, people are telling you that you are worth something, that you could be something. You see? And so when you eventually become a doctor and you look back, you can't own this doctor. You can't own it. Miss Green had a lot to do with it. The first person to tell me I could be a doctor, whatever that meant to my 70, 80-year-old ear, I knew it meant that you could be an important person. But I'm saying that all those people who, when we would put on plays in the village, Henry Rodney, John Cromwell, Zori, Orissa Zor, Sir McGarrel, all of us, Michael June, all those people, when we would put on plays, would come and watch our plays, were telling us that you're worth something and encouraging us. I got involved in politics at age 15. A lot of people in the village at that age, we got there, age 15, 16. Got involved in politics, local politics. We had something in Buxton called the Buxton the Buxton Youth Council. It was the youth version of the village council. And I, 14, 15, was still in short pants. And I was a member of the Buxton Youth Council. Very early. The older chaps in the village are saying to you that you could somebody, and you look back. You had people like Kwesi Ojinga who came to live in Buxton and got involved with us in drama. In fact, Kwesi, I think, is only responsible for Henry Rodney. They were both from BV. Henry went to school in Buxton with us. He would come and he would stay at Hopes, his cousin. And he would go home on Friday afternoon and come back on Sunday night. So he was more Buxtonian than BV. And then Kwesi married, come into Buxton. And, got involved. The drama was the thing, art. We were always doing something. Culture was the big deal. And so all those people who came out to look at us and pay money, whether it was $1 they paid or what have you, and came out and really were acknowledging us. And so when we get to where we are and we have these microphones, they don't belong to us. They belong to those people. And that is why I think Joy Reid is awesome. Because every day she let us know that she's a representative of Black people in America. She's a representative of Africans, her father's heritage. And she's representing Guyana, our mother. She wasn't born in Guyana, but she represents our country. She represents our country. Represent our country. And the message I'm trying to say here is that some of us get off by saying we are where we are because we are so good and we are so, of course we are good. All of us are good. I usually tell my students, you don't come to college to be bright, you come to college because you're bright. Of course. I say without fear of being contradicted. Ras Michael June is perhaps the best short story writer that I have encountered, and I know something about short story. I used to like Samuel Selvon, who I think was very good at short stories. He was a good novelist, but I think he was excellent at short stories. And I thought Michael June was exemplary as a short story writer. But you would hear about the Martin Carters and H.A. Seymours and so on. You would hardly hear about the Michael Junes. And so it's people like myself with a microphone who will have to talk about Michael June. Or a Kwesi Ojinga, who, for me, is one of the best playwrights because Kwesi he has an ear. You know, people that say you're listening, but you're not here. Kwesi just listen and hear. He has an ear for what people are saying. And you know that. Because when he writes, he reproduces the rhythm, the cadence, the words of people. Remarkable. Remarkable. And so Kwesi was able to float between poetry, playwriting, songwriting, because he had the tremendous ear. But again, you're going to hear about Martin Carter, understandably so. For me, he's our greatest poet. But Kwesi was as good as Martin, as part of Martin. But who's going to say that? I have a microphone and I am speaking to hundreds of people right now. By the end of the night, this broadcast, thousands of people are going to hear it. By the end of the week, tens of thousands of people are going to hear it. And I am using this microphone to uplift a Kwesi Ojinga, to uplift a Michael June. This microphone is not my microphone. I'm old enough to remember, what's his name? They cowboy president, Ronald Reagan, making big news in America when he said, "This is my phone, my microphone," you know? And I remember back then even saying, no, it's not your microphone. This microphone is not my microphone. This is the microphone. This microphone belongs to all those Guyanese people who do not have a microphone of their own to speak. They own this microphone. And it is for me to affirm them, because in affirming them, I'm affirming myself. I'm affirming myself. I played chalk dust just now. The first person who introduced me to chalk dust is Kimani Neusi, who is from Essequibo, Queenstown, but came to teach in Buxton and became like Kwesi, a Buxtonian, like Henry Rodney, a Buxtonian. And he's a historian, as everyone knows, and Chalk Dust was a history teacher, and they met at something. But every year, Chalk Dust would send one of his albums, his LPs, to Kimani. And Kimani, I remember you looking at those albums, because you were a small boy. I mean, your parents couldn't get an album, couldn't buy an album, but there you were seeing Chalk Dust. And Kimani would play the music for us. And you say, what? And then Chalk Dust sung this calypso that had Guyana name inside, you know, got us more curious. This microphone that I have do not belong to me. And so I applaud Joy Reid. At prime time, on the biggest night in America politics, she's not just talking about Kamala, but she uses the moment of Kamala to talk about us in Guyana. That's what I'm talking about. That's what I'm talking about. You know, I remember years ago, Kwesi may not remember. I looked to see if he's on the program, because sometimes when you're talking, people name you got careful let us step out. Kwesi Ojinga called me at night. We were then in Maryland, and we had gotten back into the acting thing. He, me, Jasper Adams, And we had a good thing going there. And so Quasi called me at night, about 2 o'clock, wake me up. I said, Quasi, what happened? He said, he get an idea. He just get an idea for poem. And he said, let me hear. He said, me and Bolton been at school together. We sit down in the same bench. We read and write together. And we do this together, we do that together. And then today, Bolton gone so, and me gone so. Mr. Quasi, why you wake me up at this hour for telling me? He said, well, Bolton is a boy from BV. Bolton is a character in BV. And here was Quasi, in a sense, bigging up Bolton, using art and poetry to tell the story of Bolton. He's doing a comparative thing with him, but the stories about him, right? And of course, it's 2 o'clock in the morning, I want to sleep. So why Quasi wake me up at 2 o'clock to tell me about Bolton? It's long after that I realized I was recounting the story to them by in Maryland a couple of years ago. And it occurred to me, what Quasi was doing was exactly that, using his microphone to tell the story of someone who's known in Bedford acting, but someone who's not known beyond there. And here is Quasi using his art to tell the story of Bolton. And it reminds me of one of the greatest books ever written, Beyond the Boundary by C.L.R. James. It is said to be the greatest cricket book. The white people, they say so too. But for me, it was more than it's a sociology book, a book about sociology and politics and history. And C.L.R. James talks about bondsman. He cuss up, drink up, behave bad, in the village. And then Sunday morning, he put on he whites. And he gone and play cricket. And James is saying, here's this man that everybody would revile and so on, he cuss, he drink up and so on. But on Sunday mornings, when he put on his white clothes with a bat in his hand, he becomes a genius. He becomes sober, he stop cuss, and he becomes a genius. And there was Quasi doing the same thing for Bolton. I later learned, Bolton was a hard-working chap, very, very, how I should put it, colorful chap and so on. And I don't know if Quasi got a poem till up to now. I don't know. But yes, somebody's telling me Quasi's on it. Yes, Quasi's on. Quasi's telling me. I get good memory. Of course. And so thanks, Quasi. Thanks, because you contribute to this microphone. You contribute to this microphone. And so that's why I love Joy Reid. Last night was a hell of a night. As I said, I am cynical about American politics, because there's something about American politics that is artificial, and I don't know, but yes. And for me, coming from Guyana, somebody would say, God, how can politics be more cynical than Guyanese politics? But there's a way with Guyanese politics. I mean, I don't think Donald Trump could win a neighborhood council seat in Guyana. I really don't. Guyanese put a lot of premium and substance to their leaders, And in that sense, I think Guyanese politics are a cut above American politics. A cut above American politics. So, yes, so I'm cynical about American politics. But I'm saying this election is worth the attention even of cynics like myself. Because we are at a moment that we could make history. And I've been making the point all week. Maybe 60-70% of what Kamala Harris has said and what she stands for, I don't agree with. I don't agree with much of what American politicians stand for. I don't. Because the cynicism is that they have to stand for these things in order to be elected. And my politics doesn't carry me there. But, as I said to some colleagues earlier today, I am supporting Kamala, and I want her to win. And I am saying unashamedly that I want her to win because she is a Black woman. And if that is all, I can deal with the fallout, and I'm not sitting here and thinking that our policies are going to be superior than any other American president and all of that nonsense. Obama taught us that. At the end of the day, she's an American president. But like Obama, she is a Black American president. And if you come from where we Black people came from, if you endure what we endured, having one of our women as leader of the United States of America, it is a big deal. If that's all she accomplished. If that's all. And so, this is not a time for Kamala's views and her politics and all of that. And what she has in her favor is that the person she's running against makes it easy to support her. Makes it easier to support her. Because you can't be worse than that chap. Some will say, well, suppose Kamala was like the chap. Well, Kamala couldn't be like the chap. The chap is the chap because of the experience that he comes from. Kamala could not be like that chap. You see, Kamala is part of a long history. If we are beginning to talk about Black women in electoral politics in America, we got to go back to 1964, when at the Democratic Convention, a working class woman, Black woman, from down in the South, Mississippi, I think, Mississippi, yes, didn't have no big school education and so on. She was a member of the Mississippi Freedom Democratic Party, which was like a break off of the Democratic Party. The Democratic Party didn't, it was segregation. They weren't admitting Black people. And they formed the Mississippi Democratic Party. Fannie Lou Hamer was her name. And she made an impassioned speech as a Black woman representing Black people at the 1964 convention, because the Democratic Party did not seat the members of the Mississippi Freedom Democratic Party. And she made an impassioned speech. She'll be remembered for saying, I'm sick and tired of being sick and tired. Fannie Lou Hamer, not an intellectual, not any of all of that. That was 1964. By 1972, the first serious candidate, Black candidate for president, was a woman. Shirley Chisholm, part Caribbean, Bajan. She spent part of her childhood in Barbados and never let the world forget that she was running for president in 1972. Thanks to Fannie Lou Hamer, Shirley Chisholm runs for president in 1972. 1984 and 1988, Jesse Jackson runs. In 1988, Jesse Jackson is going to change the rules of the Democratic Party from winner-take-all to proportional representation. Jesse Jackson is important in changing up and democratizing the Democratic Party. He was able to bring second in 1988, the second most candidates. If there was winner take all, he would not have done that, but he was able to do that in 1988. And we know what happened 20 years later in 2008. And here we are, 16 years later in 2024, on the brink of the point I am making is that given our experience as Black people, as people who were enslaved against our will, as people who've been beaten up, is that we rise, always rise. And when we rise, we raise the rest of the world with us. What Fannie Lou Hamer did for the Democratic Party in helping them to change the rules. What Shirley Chisholm did in opening up space for women, for Black people in 1972. What Jesse Jackson did in 84 and 88. What Obama did. They talk about democracy in America. American democracy could be nowhere without the Black contribution. Because we are always democratizing the world. Always. It is not to say that others have not played roles. Others have played roles, tremendous roles. White people have played roles in America. But the roles that they played came out of their experiences. They see the world and they see democracy through their white experience. There were white people who were abolitionists. They wanted slavery abolished. But guess what? They didn't want Black people to be part of the organizations that were meant to abolish slavery and to free Black people. So the head was in the right place. Slavery is a bad thing. It got to go. You know, which means that Black people should no longer be enslaved. But although we believe in the end of slavery, we still believe in the inferiority of Black people. How do we know that? Because these good white people didn't want Black people in the abolitionist movement. They didn't want Black people in the movement to free Black people because Black people in their head was inferior. They want slavery to end, but they want to maintain white superiority and Black inferiority. They were seeking democracy and freedom from their standpoint as white people. But we black people had to get out of slavery, had to get the hell out of there. And so when we are shaping democracy, our democracy is not just about forms, it's about substance. It's about getting out of slavery and maintaining our human dignity. White people wanted slavery to end, but they didn't want black human indignity to end. We wanted black human indignity to end. There is substance in what we do coming out of our unique experience. I never doubted my blackness. I never felt I need to be ashamed of it. I never. I happened to I grew up in a community, a place called Buxton, which has a long, long history of blackness and affirmation of blackness, and that it has produced some tremendous personages. And so to be black in Buxton, to be black in Guyana, to be black in the diaspora in the world in the 1960s and the 1970s was normative. Normative. Perhaps Buxton was the extreme of it, because we had a chap there named A.U.C. Guyana, black man of Guyana. To us, he was not just an ordinary black man, he was a saint. He was a saint. And he himself said the other day, he said, I'm not a saint, I strive to be a saint. But for us, me, Kwesi, and Alawi, he was a saint. Kwesi's name is Kwesi Ojinga. I can't remember Kwesi English name. By the time Kwesi come to Buxton, he was already Kwesi when I get to know him. So I don't even know Kwesi English name. I heard it a couple of times when I got to BV, Bolton and his classmate and them Kali by he thing. But we learned to be black, and black was normative. So today when people say to me, David Hines, you can never win no election in Guyana because you're too black. David Hines, you bring baggage because what's your baggage? You're the talk about black people and race. A white boy, a white Guyanese was saying that about me. A white boy is saying David Hines bring baggage because he talk about black people. You see, I don't want to get started, you know. But in boxing, he says, hey, Bakra Watchman, come out here. Hey, Bakra Watchman, come out here. You, Bakra. Imagine in 2024, a white boy telling a black boy, you bring baggage because you're talking about blackness. You see why our microphone got to be big and loud? And why so many of us who are black and brown have to lift our voices and sing, to borrow from the African-American Black National Anthem. Lift every voice and sing. Because there are people who still believe that black boys and black girls should not talk about their blackness. A white boy telling me, well, watch here, white boy. In 2024, telling a black boy who is more academically qualified than he, borrowing now from Michelle Obama. He's telling a black boy who is 10 times more academically qualified than he that he is baggage and he bring baggage because he's black? Why does he think he can tell an educated black boy that? It's because for him, although you may be educated as a black boy, you're still black. And your place is in the back. But I've got news to them. As them women saying in America, we're not going back. We're not sitting at the back anymore. Thank God and thanks to the Guyanese people. Some of us are in the front bench, and you all got to deal with us in the front bench. You see, they're happy with the likes of the president of the GTU. They're happy with the likes of the president of the GTU. I am sure that brother is a good man. I'm sure he's a good father to his children. He's a good brother to his brothers. He's a good son to his parents. I'm very sure of that. But as the leader of a bunch of people, a group of people, a group of workers who are mainly women of African descent, he has no idea about the responsibility he carries. And so he sold them. You see, some of us don't hide the fact that there were unscrupulous people in Africa most of them were mainly mixed people, because you see, the Portuguese from the 1400s had gone into Africa. And there's a colleague of mine who does studies in West Africa. And he said there's a group of mulatto people, descendants of the early Portuguese who went there, and Africans. And they speak, in Africa, they say they speak pidgin English, which would be called Creolese. And when you hear some of them there speak, they speak just like us in the Caribbean. And it was that group of people who mainly were the slave catchers and the slave traders. I'm contextualizing it. But the fact of the matter is that they were partly black. So we have had that experience. So this thing about selling our people is old. And what Brother Mark Light has done is that he has sold his people for a few pieces of silver. I don't know that anybody gave him any money. I don't know that. I don't even think that he need anybody to give him money. But he's now the darling of the oppressors. They may probably give him bodyguard tonight. That is the 30 pieces of silver that I'm talking about. In order to be in the good books of the oppressors, he sold his people, sold out his people. I don't know what else he got. I don't even know that he got anything of substance or any material things. Let me put it that way. But what I do know is that he had the power to put more wages in the pockets of teachers, of workers, of black women. And instead of doing that, he joined with their oppressors to rob them. To rob them. like a highway robber. If you do not understand your responsibility, if you do not understand who gave you the microphone, you will use it badly. So you all understand where I was going with that microphone story. You see, I am always conscious that if I use this microphone badly, a whole lot of people going to cry shame on me. Because a whole lot of people got shares in this microphone that I have. You see, I will have to answer to the Quasis. I will have to answer to all those people that I went to school with and that thought that I was worthy of being a custodian of their microphone. Can't go back to Buxton. If I were Mark Light and I behave like him, I know I cannot go back to Buxton. I can't show my face in many villages. And so I try to be careful about how I use my microphone that was given to me by people. Brother Mark Light does not understand the historical responsibility that has been placed in his hand. He doesn't understand that that responsibility includes standing at the gate of the plantation and preventing people from herding his sisters and brothers, his mama and his daddy back onto that plantation. He has no consciousness of his responsibility. He thinks he's just bargaining with the government. You're not bargaining with no government. You are bargaining with evil human beings who may not be naturally evil, but with political power in their hand, they are transformed into evil people. You are bargaining with people who are stealing our money in front of our faces. You are bargaining with people who are not bargaining about wages for teachers. Their objective is to put Black people in their places, in their economic places, by smothering their wages. Because with economic power comes political power. Mark Light has absolutely no consciousness of his responsibility to poor people, to Black people, and to women and workers. He used his microphone to side with marauders, to side with evil people, to devour the dignity of his own people. I'm not complaining. I'm not complaining. I'm not crying. We're past that. But let us learn the lessons here. Vanessa Kissoon ran against Mark Light. A lot of the teachers were crying now, shame on Mark Light, voted for him over Vanessa. They would have come up with what they consider to be good reasons why they voted for Mark over Vanessa. I am sure they would have convinced themselves why he is the better candidate. Maybe because he was a man. Maybe because he got a PhD. Maybe because, I don't know, maybe because he was friends with people. And I don't know. But I'm sure they came up with good reasons why they voted for him over her. Old people say, one day, Congote. Today, a year later, they're crying shame, as they must, on Brother Mark. We made a mistake. They made a mistake. They should have voted for Vanessa. Vanessa would not have put them in this shit. Vanessa would not have sold them. Vanessa would not have become a slave catcher. Brother Mark has allowed himself to become a slave catcher. Elections have consequences. The lesson that we have to learn is that we have to be very careful about the choices we make as leaders. The choices we make. That brother has done the unpardonable thing. Teacher said 40%. It's not the brother even said, well, he bring home 20%. That man sat down there and signed away the dignity, the freedom, and the just wages of 17,000 souls. Don't tell me about allowances. Because I see some allowances where if you get a PhD, the allowance is $15,000. If you get a MA, a master's, is $10,000. And if you don't have all of that, is $4,000 or $5,000. So even when you're talking about but allowances, the allowances is for the few at the top who got a PhD and masters. The overwhelming majority of our teachers don't have masters and PhD. So they're not benefiting from that nonsense that he's talking about. But they want the wages. At some point, we've got to cut people like Mark Light out from our, old people that say, they're not put you upon their will. We got to cut people like Mark Light out of our African will. I've heard that the brother was shaky. I heard that the brother was leaning towards the other side. I heard this, I heard that. And people are urging me, Dr. Hines, speak out against that guy. I refused to. Because I was not interested in that. I was interested in how he was going to represent my sisters. My sisters mainly. There are some brothers there, but mainly my sisters. And I was giving him a chance. I called him one day, or emailed him, or text him and asked him to come on to this program. He didn't. I subsequently saw him on programs on the other side. And I said, it's easy for this black brother to go on a program on the other side, but can't come on our program. I think when I spoke to him, he said, well, he was at some other appointment, but I can contact him later on. I said, I'm not contacting you. I see what your game is. But even then, I remained quiet. And no more quiet, my brother. You're not on our will. We take you off of the African will. What you did is akin to what slave catchers did. You have imprisoned your brother and sister teachers, your sister and brother teachers. You've imprisoned black women economically. That teacher tonight who's not able to provide a proper dinner for our 4 children or 3 children is because of you, Mark Light. Your behavior is mercenary. Mercenary. You thought not about the well-being of your people. As the Christians will say, God will break your backbone. God will break your backbone. Because you're too arrogant and ignorant. Ignorant of your own responsibility as a black male. We're closing the gate. We're closing the gate so that we don't reproduce more of Mark Lights. God bless Coretta McDonald. God bless a black woman. Coretta represented our dignity, and the black male has brought indignity and heaped it upon us. We've got to be tough with these people. We've got to be tough with them because they know what they're doing. How could you? If you were tempted to do it as a trade unionist, all right? If you were tempted to do it as a GTU president, all right? But God, when you watch yourself and say, but my God, I'm a black man. I come from the womb of a black woman. The majority of those teachers are women, most of them black. I can't do it. I can't do it. I can't do it. I can't do it. Oh my God, I can't do it. That he did not go there points to the level of depravity that has taken over the neighborhood of many of the elites in our country, taken over their brains, taken over their imaginations. They think the microphone is theirs. Take back the microphone. Teachers, Guyanese, working people, African people, take back your microphone from that man. He's not worthy of it. I said before they signed that if they sign that nonsense, teachers must revolt against their union. And you must. And we must support the teachers. You see, part of the problem is that that Mark Light could take advantage on those teachers because a lot of the Guyanese population didn't stand with those teachers. When that man took the teachers off the streets, I was one of those persons who tried to justify it. I was giving the brother a chance. When he took the teachers off the street, as one of those people said, the teachers won a victory. I still believe that. But I was willing to give Brother Mark a chance. He has messed up. He has shit up. Chances are gone. The teachers who are dissatisfied must now plan. And your plan cannot include your president. Teachers, you all went to the court. And the court ruled on your side. I am reliably informed that the process by which this agreement was signed cannot pass the legal test. You just got to go to court. The General Secretary has not signed. The General Secretary has not signed. I'm going to get Sister Coretta on. Today is her Sabbath, so I didn't bother her today. She was on Kadaki this morning, so if you all get to catch her there, but I'm going to get her here next week. This story ain't done. We've got to fight back. We've got to fight back. That microphone must be taken away from that man. In fact, it's already taken away. It's already taken away because he misunderstood who the real owners of that microphone that he holds, who the real owners are. We're up against it, not for the first time. We are called upon to fight for our lives, not for the first time. And we are going to overcome, not for the first time. And not the last time, because our struggle is continuous. Why do they fear the open word? Asked Bertolt Brecht, I think. Why do they fear the black skin? Because mixed up with that blackness It's a long history of righteous struggle, a long history of perseverance and overcoming, a long, long history of making mistakes, but spotting those mistakes early enough to correct them. A long history of brotherhood and sisterhood. A long history of showing the way for the rest of humanity. Because we endure the worst, we paint pictures and silhouettes of the best. We bring to the table something unique, not superior, unique. And it is the Black uniqueness and the East Indian uniqueness and the Amerindian uniqueness, Portuguese and Chinese and European and mixed uniqueness that make our Guyana unique. But those who would like to bury the Black uniqueness under the ocean, we warn you. In the words of Martin Carter, like a tide from the heart of things, inexorably and inevitably a day will come. If I do not live to see that day, my son will see it. And if he does not see it, his son will see it. And it will come circling this world like fire. It will come to this land and to every land. And when it comes, I'll come alive again and laugh again and walk out of this prison. Martin Carter.